For the information visualization part, we have a whole process in place. In a very systematic way, we scope the problem, we forage all the information that is relevant, we do sense-making, storytelling, and schematizing. So we're providing a set of tools that help you, let's say, get all the information and elicit all that information out of all those stakeholders. We're using, let's say, multi-touch walls and multi-touch tables to classify all that information. So all that information that is relevant and relevant, let's say, to the whole group is brought in what we call storytellers. We basically build, let's say, visual scenarios over time and model that, and there where the complexity and the mathematics come in, and model that underneath the water. And we do also that with practitioners and experts sitting next to each other, which was discussed this morning as well, in a real co-creation kind of process. Let's give you a couple of examples what we are doing to make it more concrete, to have a good notion of what type of games we are building. Basically, we have three kind of flavors. So-called T-Explore games, games that are basically directed to information transfer and communication and persuasion. We build so-called T-Experience games, where you need to oversee, let's say, the consequences of different scenarios. And we build games for what we call, let's say, training and education. We do that in all different kind of settings, in all different kind of domains. So we're in the world of what is called urban or infrastructure planning. We also work in the domain of safety and security, and also active, let's say, in the domain of defense. Let me give you a couple of examples, just to give you a flavor of those type of games we are building and for which clients we have been doing that. So these are the type of games basically for awareness creation and persuasion. This is a game we did for Thales in collaboration with the NATO Underwater Research Center in La Spezia, Italy. And basically it was looking to scenarios of what is called asymmetrical threats. Piracy is a good example, let's say, to do that. So suppose you have a ship, a civil ship, a merchant ship or an oil tanker or something like that, that is sailing, let's say, from the ocean into the harbor and then moors. A lot of things might go on, and we model that, let's say, within our game. So a UAV might fly over, drop a bomb, and all this type of calamities might occur during your sailing from the sea to the harbor. So when Thales is giving this game or playing this game with their stakeholders, what they learn is what the risk-taking behavior is of those stakeholders when they're sailing their ship from A to B. And in the meantime, there's a lot of technology modeled within this game. So you can, if you buy in that technology, you create situational awareness and you have more visibility, let's say, within your radar view. Meaning that you see the implications of buying that technology. And what you learn there is, of course, the risk-taking behavior of your client, and at the same time, the interest in a certain type of configuration of those technologies, making it worthwhile, let's say, to proceed and provide them an interesting offer. This is something completely different. Yesterday we had a nice ride across the river, and what I noticed was a lot of plastic, let's say, within this river. But you have another problem, maybe you have heard of it, the plastic soup. There's a lot of plastic waste all over the world, and somehow that is coming into our oceans, and then it collects itself around the Pacific Ocean. So to imagine there's twice as large the United States of America is plastic floating around in the Pacific Ocean. So it's a major disaster which is coming towards us. And it's even more problematic given the fact there's not even a problem owner, right? So how can you come up with the solutions for a problem like this? This is what they call the plastic soup. So we had the opportunity to have a lot of students and PhD students from all different kind of departments at the University of Twente come in, and we do our virtual reality thing, and they came up, let's say, with all different kind of creative ideas to solve that type of a problem. We broadcasted that on National Geographic Channel, and we will basically take it from here. The problem, of course, is not even solved, but it is creating the awareness maybe to solve this type of a problem. Something else. You don't need always, let's say, these type of synthetic environments. Even a simple board game may do. This is what we have been building now for a aid company, a non-governmental organization, a Cordate. Maybe you know it. It's similar like the Red Cross. That type of organization that go in, let's say, in very poverty areas and try to understand, let's say, also from the perspective of the people who live in those areas, to come to what are the basic service needs and what are, let's say, sustainable neighborhoods. It will be applied in January, and people taking this game to Cape Town, San Salvador, and Kisumu to understand, let's say, what the problem and the solution space might be, also from the perspective of the people who are living in those areas. So you don't even need, let's say, this whole fancy environment, but it can be, let's say, in this typical board games, it can be web-based on those type of platforms or mobile phones, but also, and sometimes it depends, let's say, on the co-creation process. You can do it in these synthetic environments as well. Few examples of games, let's say, in the area where you need to think about all those what-if type of analysis, all different kind of scenarios and what they mean and how they relate, let's say, to your criteria of acceptance. This is an interesting one. We did this in the Netherlands. There was a military airport. Military went out, so there was basically the whole idea of transforming that military airport in a civil airport. But a lot of other people were interested in coming up with a complete interesting alternative that could compete against, let's say, that solution. So we facilitate that with 35 different stakeholders, came in, let's say, with the noses in every direction, and ended up, let's say, with an interesting model, which, and I don't know exactly how it is in Brazil, because it's my first time here, but if you look to urban planning situations in the Netherlands, to come up with a plan, let's say, which is feasible, that takes about, let's say, 5 to 7 years, given, let's say, how the things are organized, let's say, within the Netherlands, using the methodologies you used as today. What we did using this kind of tooling, we brought that process back to 8 months. Yeah? So instead of 5 to 8 years, or 5 to 7 years, we brought it back to 8 months. And this is really, let's say, for me, a showcase to make, let's say, to show that you can really speed up, let's say, the decision-making process, and everybody sitting there at the table agreed with the end solution. So it speeds up, let's say, make decision-making quicker. We're doing the same thing now in the city of The Hague. The Hague, as you might know, has, among other, let's say, the International Court of Justice, and there are more of these type of institutions that like to come to The Hague. But in order to do so, The Hague needs a kind of international zone which is also safe, right? So what we do there is multi-criteria analysis, also not only for economic and living conditions, but also for security analysis. We just produced the game, did the first prototype testing last week, and we play the final game, let's say, in early next year. This is an example for the Ministry of Defense. It's kind of system of system approach. The term was mentioned this morning as well. So here you have the soldier of tomorrow in what is called the soldier modernization program. So he will be full of new technologies that somehow need to be interacting with one another. And here we brought the end user, let's say, into the gameplay. So the end user was basically giving the tools to configure all different kind of configurations of all those type of technologies, up till the point that it was accepted that he will really wear it and then do his thing, let's say, in an operational scenario. Another thing that might be interesting also, and might be applicable also here in Brazil, I don't know, but this is an interesting thing that might happen in the port of Rotterdam. So ships bump into one another, and cargo may be spilled in the water, and you know that might be bad. So if there exists a crisis management situation, then everybody who is involved has some piece of the puzzle, some information that is relevant, let's say, to solve that. But the interesting thing is, if you look at it carefully, that everybody has a different meaning of understanding and sharing information in that kind of thing. So we used also serious gaming here. And at the end of the game, out came an agreed information management model. So there was not a technical solution, but it was basically, let's say, an organizational issue, how to bring everybody, let's say, and bring them in the right direction. One last example for these T-Experience kind of games, football. We like football, right? The Dutch like football and the Brazilians like football, so might as well give you an example of football. This is the stadium for our Dutch national champion, FC Twente, playing soccer in that stadium. What you see, if something also from a safety perspective and security perspective, if something happens there, then you have an issue on the operational level for people who notice what is going on there, and on the strategic level, people have to make a decision. So we did some experiments here to see if this type of 3D modeling, visualizations, interactive visualizations, let's say, would be very, very helpful in making decisions also on that level.